Liam, a shy and reserved young man, arrived at college filled with a mix of anxiety and anticipation for a fresh start. As he entered the room he'd be sharing, he met his roommate Chris, who was his complete opposite: athletic, charismatic, and well known around campus. Chris greeted Liam with a warm smile and quickly tried to break the ice, noticing his new friend's nervousness. Liam, in turn, couldn't help but be drawn to Chris's natural confidence, which left him feeling even more intrigued. As they unpacked their things, Chris kept the conversation light, asking about Liam's hobbies and interests. Liam's bookshelf caught Chris's eye, and he asked about the books Liam had brought, showing genuine curiosity. This made Liam feel more at ease, and he began speaking more openly, forgetting his usual shyness. Chris listened intently, and the two started to find common ground despite their differences. That night, Chris suggested they explore the campus together. Though hesitant, Liam accepted the invitation, and they wandered the campus under the starry sky, with Chris pointing out the best spots to study and relax. Along the way, they bumped into several of Chris's friends, who enthusiastically greeted him, further highlighting his popularity. Yet, what stood out most to Liam was that Chris seemed fully focused on him despite the crowd. Back at the dorm, they continued talking about their hopes for the semester and the new experiences awaiting them. Through laughter and conversation, they began forming a genuine connection, and Liam sensed he'd found a true friend. Chris, with his attentive and friendly demeanor, seemed interested in learning more about Liam, much to his surprise. As they prepared to sleep, Liam felt a new kind of excitement and curiosity. He didn't know exactly what lay ahead, but he sensed that this unexpected friendship with Chris might bring adventures and discoveries he'd never imagined. With that thought, he fell asleep with a soft smile, eager for what the future held. The next morning, Liam woke up feeling slightly more confident, remembering the connection he and Chris had formed. As he got up, he saw Chris stretching, preparing for his morning workout. Liam couldn't help but admire Chris's athletic build and dedication, impressed by his discipline. Noticing Liam's interest, Chris invited him to join him at the campus gym, saying it would be a good way to meet people and get used to the college environment. Though hesitant, Liam accepted, curious to step out of his comfort zone. At the gym, Chris introduced Liam to some friends and guided him through basic exercises. Despite his initial apprehension, Liam found himself enjoying the experience, especially with Chris's encouraging attitude, making every small achievement feel significant. With Chris by his side, the challenges felt more manageable. After their workout, they returned to their room and relaxed. Chris shared funny stories about his childhood and growing up with a house full of siblings. Liam laughed, surprised at how easily Chris could lighten any moment. This unexpected friendship was bringing out a side of Liam he didn't know existed, a more relaxed, open version of himself. That night, they decided to watch a movie together, and Liam found himself feeling genuinely happy to have a friend like Chris. The bond between them was something new to Liam, something that left him both intrigued and hopeful for what they might experience together. Chris, too, felt a growing fondness for Liam, appreciating his sincerity and authenticity. As the credits rolled, a comfortable silence filled the room. Both knew they were building something special, and Liam, usually reserved, felt excited to see where this friendship might lead. On the third day of sharing a room, the friendship between Liam and Chris was stronger, but now there was a different kind of tension in the air. After a long night of studying, Chris suggested they unwind in their dorm room. He put on some soft music and casually mentioned how exhausting college life could be, especially with so many expectations. Feeling at ease with Chris, Liam opened up about his insecurities and how he admired Chris's confidence. Sensing Liam's admiration, Chris moved closer and put a reassuring hand on his shoulder, offering comforting words that made Liam feel special. The unexpected contact and the intensity in Chris's gaze stirred feelings in Liam he'd kept quiet. When Chris leaned in slightly, as if testing Liam's reaction, the moment became even more charged. Liam felt a mix of nervousness and excitement, unsure of where this would lead. Without many words, their closeness grew, and Liam, swept up in the moment, allowed himself to explore these new emotions. Chris, confident and undeniably appealing, seemed fully aware of the effect he had, guiding the situation with the effortless charm that made him so irresistible. For Liam, it felt like a new door had opened, and he didn't want this moment to end. Over the following days, Liam found himself constantly thinking about Chris and the connection they'd shared. But Chris continued acting with a nonchalant ease, leaving Liam a bit uncertain. He was caring and charming in private, but kept an emotional distance, as if he enjoyed their new dynamic without fully committing to it. Even so, Liam believed something special was developing, and each time he looked at Chris, he felt more drawn to him. Without realizing it, Liam was falling deeper, while Chris kept control of the situation with his relaxed attitude. Days grew more intense, and the connection between Liam and Chris seemed to deepen with every encounter. They now spent most of their time together, studying, exploring campus, or talking late into the night. For Liam, being with Chris was exhilarating, almost addictive. He admired how effortlessly Chris charmed him, creating moments that felt intimate and unique. One night, after a campus party, Liam finally gathered the courage to question Chris about his behavior. Heart-pounding, he asked why Chris seemed like a different person when they were alone versus when they were in public. Chris, initially caught off guard, responded with a casual smile, saying he didn't see the need to complicate things and preferred to keep it between them. Chris's words hit Liam like a cold shock. To him, what they had wasn't casual. It was intense, deep, and real. He'd hoped Chris felt the same, but the dismissive answer left him feeling empty and unsure. For the first time, Liam realized he might be idealizing what he felt for Chris, while Chris saw their relationship as a temporary fling. In the days that followed, Liam tried to distance himself, though he couldn't resist Chris's magnetic presence. Every time he saw him, his heart raced, and memories of their shared moments flooded back. He felt trapped between the desire to be with Chris and the need to protect his own heart. As time passed, Liam began noticing that Chris might care more about his public image than about their relationship. This hurt him, but also strengthened his resolve to understand the truth behind Chris's intentions. Liam's doubts were growing, and the once sparkling connection between him and Chris started feeling like a burden. Though they shared intimate moments, Chris remained distant in public, keeping up his popular persona. One afternoon, after class, Liam decided it was time to confront Chris once and for all. With a heavy heart, he asked Chris directly about his feelings and why he insisted on hiding their relationship. Chris, as laid back as ever, tried to avoid the conversation, but Liam was determined. Eventually, Chris admitted that his public image was important to him and that being open about their relationship might affect his popularity. The revelation hit Liam hard, He wanted someone who valued him entirely, and Chris's attitude left him feeling unimportant. Deeply hurt, Liam realized that he'd been holding on to an idealized version of their relationship, believing Chris shared his feelings. But now, he saw he was involved in something that might never be what he wanted. The pain of betrayal made him question whether staying with Chris was worth it. In the days that followed, Liam tried to keep his distance, filling his time with studies and new friends. He knew he needed time to process everything and to figure out what he truly wanted. Though Chris continued reaching out, acting as though nothing had changed, this only added to Liam's confusion. This forced distance gave Liam a new perspective. He deserved someone who would love him openly, and he began to understand that maybe it was time to face this painful reality. Liam felt torn between his lingering affection for Chris and the need to move on. He realized he'd lost himself in his hopes for their relationship, hoping Chris was ready for something real. Now, Liam knew he had to make a decision to protect his feelings and his dignity. One quiet afternoon, as Liam was alone in the room, Chris walked in, attempting to start a casual conversation. Liam, steady and resolute, interrupted him. He expressed with sincerity how deeply Chris's behavior had hurt him. He explained that he couldn't settle for a hidden relationship because it made him feel invisible and undervalued. Chris listened, visibly affected by Liam's words. Chris tried to explain, saying he didn't want to lose their friendship and that their relationship was special to him, even if he couldn't show it openly. But Liam saw these words for what they were, well-meaning, but not enough. He realized that a true relationship meant facing challenges together, something Chris wasn't ready for. This conversation gave Liam a newfound clarity. He understood that staying with Chris would only bring more pain. Though it hurt, he decided he needed to walk away. This decision gave him strength, and despite the sadness, he felt relieved knowing he was doing what was right for himself. Liam made it clear he would always cherish their memories, but needed to move forward. And with that, he began to heal. After making the difficult decision to distance himself from Chris, Liam began rebuilding his life with focus and determination. He threw himself into his studies, trying to fill the void left by Chris's absence. Close friends noticed a change in Liam, but they respected his space, understanding he was going through a period of transformation. Every night was a battle between intense memories and the desire to move on, but Liam was determined not to let the pain consume him. Despite his efforts to move forward, Liam often crossed paths with Chris on campus, and each unexpected encounter was a painful reminder of what they could have been. Chris was still surrounded by his social circle, always charismatic and popular, but Liam could see a certain sadness in his eyes. Though they never spoke during these encounters, both seemed to understand the unresolved tension that lingered in the air. This lack of communication, however, made Liam wonder just how much Chris had truly valued what they shared. As time went on, Liam realized he needed to focus on his own well-being. He started attending activities he enjoyed and got involved in new campus projects, which helped him rediscover his own identity. The pain slowly began to fade, replaced by a sense of personal accomplishment. His experience with Chris had left deep scars, but it also taught him the importance of staying true to himself and never settling for less than he deserved. Chris, on the other hand, felt the weight of Liam's absence in his life. Although he remained the center of attention, He began to feel the emptiness that came from losing Liam. Being surrounded by people who only admired his public image no longer brought the same satisfaction, and he started to realize that the value of a true relationship went beyond popularity and others' approval. Regret grew within him, but Chris knew it might be too late to mend the consequences of his choices. Meanwhile, Liam grew stronger. He found support in new friends and, through activities he loved, began to see a future where he didn't depend on anyone else's acceptance or love but his own. He felt that he was growing, and despite the scars, there was something beautiful in the strength he found along his journey. He learned that self-love and authenticity are the strongest foundations for any relationship. As Liam moved forward from his relationship with Chris, he began to truly embrace the opportunity for new beginnings and meaningful connections. The painful experience had transformed into a newfound strength, and he became more committed to exploring life without holding back or compromising his self-worth. Liam dove into his studies, pursued hobbies he'd set aside, and developed friendships that allowed him to be authentic. These relationships brought a sense of joy and peace he hadn't felt in a long time. The lessons from his relationship with Chris lingered, especially in moments of reflection. He realized that he was no longer willing to settle for love that made him feel hidden. Liam wanted to be loved openly, fully, by someone who wasn't afraid of what others thought. And while moving on wasn't easy, each step forward reinforced his sense of independence and self-worth. He understood now that love should feel liberating, not restrictive. And he found comfort in knowing he would never have to compromise himself again for someone else's approval. Meanwhile, Chris struggled with his own journey of self-discovery. While he was still surrounded by the friends and social status he had worked so hard to maintain, there was now a hollowness that couldn't be filled by popularity. He began to understand that he had let something truly meaningful slip away because he was afraid of how it might affect his image. The admiration he received from others now felt superficial, unable to replace the depth of connection he had once shared with Liam. In quieter moments, he would find himself missing Liam's presence, his understanding, and the way he made Chris feel truly seen. Chris's regret grew with time, and he started to question the choices he'd made and the importance he had placed on popularity. He began to wonder if he had been hiding from his own insecurities all along, using his image to mask the parts of himself he was too afraid to confront. Losing Liam forced him to face these uncomfortable truths, pushing him toward a deeper level of self-reflection. Although he wasn't ready to reach out or mend things, he couldn't shake the impact that Liam had left on him, a reminder of what true, honest connection could feel like. Liam, on the other hand, continued to thrive in his newfound independence. Each day felt like a fresh step forward, a chance to build a future that honored his values and dreams. He knew he had grown stronger, and he found comfort in the idea that he was capable of finding happiness on his own. Friends noticed the change in him, seeing a more confident, self-assured person who no longer seemed burdened by the opinions of others. Liam's confidence became magnetic, drawing people into his life who appreciated him for who he truly was. As the school year progressed, Liam discovered new passions and deepened his relationships with friends who valued him fully. He found himself thinking less about Chris and more about the future, focusing on what he wanted and the kind of life he aimed to build. He understood now that love wasn't about fitting into someone else's expectations, but rather about finding someone who celebrated him without reservations. and with each passing day, he felt more certain that he was on the right path. Chris continued to wrestle with his regrets, learning more about himself through the absence of what he had lost. He knew that he had to make changes if he wanted to prevent making the same mistakes in the future. While he wasn't yet ready to fully accept his vulnerabilities, he knew he could no longer hide behind his image. Slowly, he began to work on being more genuine, letting go of the need for constant validation from others. In the end, both Liam and Chris were on separate but meaningful paths of growth. Liam, empowered by his decision to honor his self-worth, knew that his life was better for having gone through the heartbreak. He looked to the future with a heart open to new possibilities, and the assurance that he would never settle for anything less than a love that honored him completely. Chris, still learning to come to terms with his choices, carried with him the lessons of loss and the reminder that authenticity was the only path to genuine connection. Though their paths no longer intertwined, both Liam and Chris emerged from the experience changed, each carrying the strength to create a better future